Man, if you're looking for a stress test on a Saturday night, if you're looking to get your heart flowing, then this game between the Packers and the 49ers on a Saturday night in the NFC Divisional playoff game, oh boy, it was certainly a ride for sure for both of these teams because, oh man, you had the 7th seed Green Bay Packers on a roll coming off that big win over the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington, that big blowout win. Meanwhile, you have my San Francisco 49ers as the top seed coming off 2 weeks of rest, essentially basically almost 3 because they didn't play week 18, but I digress. They were coming off essentially almost 3 weeks of rest off their first round bye, coming into that rainy ass weather on Saturday. And yeah, we were going to see their quest for redemption begin. I'll get to that quest of redemption in a little bit, maybe a little bit much later on, actually. But nonetheless, as for this game, is the one that matters most to them. They take it game by game. But yeah, this game was certainly one that was going to really test your stress levels. It got really intense as the game wore along, and the more you saw of the Niners just really not do anything for most of this game, really struggle with adversity, just as Cody Rhodes still trying to have that struggle with adversity on the road to WrestleMania. But as for this game, it pretty much started out how it started out last week for the Green Bay Packers. They win the coin toss, and rather than defer to the 49ers, they get the ball first. They wanted the ball first, and they wanted to score. And they were pretty successful in moving the ball to get into scoring position. The Niners defense really struggling to stop Aaron Jones in the running game, even though they already got Eric Armstead back after almost a month off with that foot issue, but still struggling to stop Aaron Jones in the running game. And the Packers immediately found themselves in the red zone thanks to a dumbass pass interference penalty from Ambry Thomas. Oh boy, I'm probably gonna be mentioning that name a lot. Ambry Thomas, the cornerback, and PI, pass interference. That's gonna be a theme around this man all night long. How many times was he gonna get arrested for that crime? Well, this certainly wasn't the first indication, but hint to later on. So now we already get our first test for the 49ers in the red zone. This is where they thrived for much of the season. And they got a first key stop here. Charvarius Ward stopped the Packers in the end zone, and they limited them to just a field goal. So it was 3-0. Not a bad way to start, but wouldn't have gotten there if Ambry Thomas didn't have a dumbass PI call, and that was on him. Meanwhile, for Purdy in the offense, they really struggled to get it going on their opening drive. Rather than utilize, your all-pro running back in Christian McCaffrey, CMC, which was certainly a choice because, the Packers, they had one of the worst run defenses in the league. Yet Kyle Shanahan said, okay, let's make Purdy the hero in this game. And it was only their opening drive, and they went all passing in it. And what did that lead to? Well, Deebo Samuel got a few catches in, but he got dinged up just a few plays later, and he had to leave the game. He went in and out of the game, and initially it looked like he was getting evaluated for a concussion, but more on that in a bit. So Purdy got sacked on the opening drive, third down, and they were forced to punt. And the Packers made them pay for it. They continued to burn the 49ers defense that continued to struggle. And my first thought was, why aren't they pressuring? Where's the pressure from Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, Chase Young? 3/4 of those guys that you paid big fat contracts to, and yet they're not there. They're like in sitting ducks against that Packers O-line. It's like, where is it? Where's the pressure? They're like literally giving Jordan Love free real estate, like Aaron Rodgers passed on State Farm to Jordan Love. So anyway, Green Bay was within scoring distance just minutes later, but the 49ers defense once again held serve. But they even held serve even better here because rather than get the points, the Packers elected to try to convert a fourth down. Jordan Love tried to go for a quarterback sneak. It was just a little bit inches, but he was stopped short of the first down marker as the second quarter began. And, maybe that was just perhaps the thing to get the 49ers going, especially offensively. And, as they got their next drive going, it took this drive for Kyle Shanahan to realize, hey, I have a running back. I have a running back in Christian McCaffrey, and I can pinpoint the Packers' weak running defense. And that's what he did. He started to use Christian McCaffrey in this drive. So I can do something. I can do something, pal. So yeah, there's still some struggles on the offense, like with some miscommunication between Purdy and Brandon Ayuk. But they were still slowly coming together. They finally getting a drive going. So they were facing a third down in the red zone. They were in scoring position, but they were in that third down position. So Purdy puts up this nice floater, and he gets it to George Kittle for the bucket, for the touchdown, and the Niners are up 7-3. All right, good start to the second quarter. But here's the problem. Yeah, you finally get something going on your offense, but your defense is still getting killed. Still getting killed by Jordan Love. And they couldn't get any pressure. They couldn't get a sack on Mr. Love. So, yeah, the Niners certainly need some love because they managed to stop the Pack in the red zone. But even though it was 7-6, I feel like, that defense that was getting killed in coverage, that was getting killed in the trenches, I don't know, man. I feel like they needed to have, like, a conversation. They needed to have a conversation with each other. Defensive coordinator Steve Wilks needed to have a conversation with them because they were really letting the Packers hang around. They were letting the Packers get their way in pretty much all facets on that offense. And, they're not getting themselves off the field. So it was bad. It was a bad way in this first half. Meanwhile, there was a concerning sign for the San Francisco offense as they took the field because Deebo Samuel was seen walking to the back to be evaluated for what I think Aaron Andrews of Fox was reporting as a shoulder injury. Uh-oh. So keep in mind, it was that same injury that kept him out during that losing skid midseason. It started with the Browns game, kept him out of the Vikings game and the Bengals game, and Purdy really struggled during that stretch because without Deebo Samuel, you literally lose a fourth of how you could run your offense, and you could clearly see as throughout the rest of this game how much Purdy missed Deebo Samuel. But even with Deebo Samuel there, like for the first couple of minutes, like for the first couple of plays, it was kind of a little iffy. It was a little kind of iffy without him there. So they did start pushing towards getting to scoring position, but that 2-minute drill drive that Kyle Shanahan put together to close out the first half, that was really bad. Like, that was a really bad ending to the first half because they were getting to scoring position. They were like that close to the red zone, but Kyle Shanahan just decided to milk the clock. Like, what are you doing? Like, you have to keep going. You have essentially all 3 of your timeouts, and you're just in the you're having your quarterback in the huddle, milking that clock down to 34 seconds, and then it's literally only 3rd and 2. Keep in mind when he's doing this, it's 3rd and 2, and then he's milking that shit down to 34 seconds, and then rather than run a play down, you call a timeout. What are we doing here? Like, why? Why are we doing this? Like really, when you had like that clock turning down, when you got after that other play, you could have ran another one. You could have had Christian McCaffrey run it down to convert the first down. You could have threw a check down to either Ayuk or Kittle or Jawan Jennings, 3rd and Jawan. So you could have dialed up at least 1 or 2 more plays before you start using up your timeouts so you can get into touchdown range. But instead, he plays for the field goal. He plays for that little bit of extra yardage for his rookie kicker, Jake Moody, the one we left the crap on. But instead, this one's not technically his fault. So I'll let it slide a little bit slide here. So it actually gets tipped at the line. So that's why it was all crappy. So nonetheless, though, you went into halftime 7-6. That was very alarming. Sound the alarm because the Niners, yes, they have a halftime lead, but Green Bay was outperforming them in pretty much all aspects of the ball. Jordan Love having his way against a defense that was missing tackles and slipping, sliding all over the field. They mentioned about them having to change their cleats every so often. Yet, when you look at the Packers on defense, you didn't see them slipping on the field. Like, you didn't see them, treating the field like a slip and slide. They were doing just fine. And yet, the 49ers, they play on that field like a good amount of times, and they were slipping and sliding. So, the Packers defense, they were doing a number to keep Brock Purdy locked in the pocket like he's stuck in quicksand. And to make matters worse for that offense for San Francisco, Deebo Samuel was seen coming out of the locker room without his jersey on, and then he eventually put on a hoodie, which was a big sign. Yeah, he got ruled out of the game with that shoulder injury. So very concerning for the 49ers. So nonetheless, going to the next half, if the Niners were trying to avoid that embarrassing upset on Saturday night, they needed to make some serious adjustment in that wet-ass weather, in that pouring rain that pretty much everyone, whether it's in this room or in that stadium or wherever they live, that keep complaining about that weather, they need to get something going. They need to get something going, make some serious adjustments, and that started with their quarterback and their defense. Unfortunately, as the third quarter rolled along, it didn't look like, once again, they didn't do any of that. Brock Purdy couldn't evade the pressure. They got him stuck in the pocket yet again, like he was stuck in quicksand. And the defense looked like it was primed to get Jordan Love off the field for once finally, force a punt. He botched a toss to Aaron Jones on first down, and that caused a big loss. But unfortunately, 2 plays later, they were facing a 3rd and 15, and it looked like the Niner defense was finally going to get a stop. They're finally going to force the Packers to punt. But then, of course, I'm going to say this name again. Dumbass Ambry Thomas elected to, hey, ref, handcuff me. Take me to jail for the crime that I committed known as pass interference because I decided to get in front of Bo Melton too early and knock his ass down because I couldn't cover him. So he gets charged for the crime of pass interference, and they get set up in prime scoring position. Jordan Love found Melton wide open, primarily thanks to Tashawn Gibson, the safety, slipping on the field as well. And the Packers all of a sudden find themselves at a 13-7 advantage. So everyone in that stadium was just like, the fuck? What are they doing here? It's like, this should not be happening right now. And, people watching at home, Niners fans watching at home. Yeah, absolutely not. We were not pleased with this performance. This defense was playing so piss poor, so undisciplined, so bad, everything. They were slipping on the field, having to change their cleats, like I said. Yet the Packers were not. The secondary gained loss in coverage, and especially Ambry Thomas, man. He was having a very bad game. Like, a little surprising that he didn't get benched. But then again, maybe not because they didn't have anybody. The Niners offense at least finally woke up with a big 3rd down conversion to George Kittle. And they immediately scored on that with a big run by Christian McCaffrey. They took the lead back 14-3. But then the Packers immediately erased that with a big kickoff return by Keyshawn Nixon. And although he almost fumbled that away, the Packers took the lead back. Jordan Love tossed it like pretty easily to an open Tucker Kraft because, well, someone slipped again from the Niners. And then the 2-point conversion was successful. They decided to go for 2 rather than 1. And it was a 21-14 game and forced the Niners to try to go for a touchdown to tie that game up. So, yeah, this is probably, one of the worst efforts I've seen from the Niners. A very stressful effort. And that's because, well, everyone was struggling on both ends. But at least from here on out, while the offense was still struggling to get anything going, Dre Greenlaw finally got something for his defense. He secured an interception off a tipped Jordan Love pass that, it looked like it shouldn't have been thrown, but we'll take what we can get at this point. And that possibly could have been the key play that the Niners were looking for to wake themselves up. Unfortunately, still not enough because Purdy still missing his receivers, still not recognizing the pressure, still refusing to get out of the pocket, and, still complaining about the moist ball in his hand, still complaining about his throwing hand being wet as hell. So all they could muster was a field goal, which at least Jake Moody didn't get it missed or blocked as we headed to the fourth quarter, 21-17. So the defense, at least finally starting to wake up, forcing the Packers to punt for the first time all night in what felt like an eternity. But we needed Mr. Purdy to show up. Yet, still not there. Still complaining about that wet-ass ball. But Jordan Love was still doing fine with that wet-ass ball. He got the Niners still moving into the red zone. The Packers looking to put that death blow on the 49ers. Aaron Jones also got a big run in on their next drive. But the Niners defense, they held serve and forced a field goal attempt that would have kept it at a touchdown game. However, their rookie kicker missed it left. So for as much struggles as people like to bitch about Jake Moody, the Packers kicker, yes, also not very good this season. He's had his troubles. So it stayed at a 21-17 game. It now gives the Niners a chance to take control of this game because, as long as Purdy can stop complaining about that grip, moist ball, yes, the weather conditions, not ideal, but hey, look at the other quarterback. He's doing just fine. So for Purdy, for how bad he did all game, at least he saved his best for last. He got 2 clutch throws into Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk on 2 big third down conversions. Time continues to winden down to the 2-minute warning. And yeah, he had that big boy drive in going there, pal. And as the time started to wind down, he got a few other key conversions from McCaffrey as well. A couple key runs. And, as the clock started to wind down, it was a little surprising that the Packers didn't call a timeout, but maybe it's a part of their strategy. And then on this next play, it was a little interesting that when the Niners opened up a hole for Christian McCaffrey, he went in and scored. So he went in and scored. He got the go-ahead touchdown. I was like, yes, finally something happened on this offense. At the same time, though, it's just like there's still over a minute remaining. And I was just like, okay, your defense better do something now. Your defense has to do something on this next series to close out the game. So because McCaffrey didn't stop a tad short of the goal line, they need that also struggling defense to make one big stop on Jordan Love and the Packers. So once again, paging Dr. Dre Greenlaw, who made the biggest play of his life, my hero, intercepted Jordan Love again, this time on their final down of the game. After they got a little bit past midfield. So Love was under pressure on, I believe it was a 4th down, and the front 4 finally forced him into his worst throw of the game. And the Niners scrapped their way from this one, 24-21, and they're on their way back to the NFC Championship game. But hey, let me just say this first. Credit to the Packers, man. Credit to the Packers because they made their Niners' life a living hell in this one. Because I'll say this, I've talked about the Packers on this channel on Cold Lasagna because I looked at the Packers, in my weekly recaps whenever I talked about them mid-season. They were struggling. They were really struggling in midway through the season. But they really came together in the last month of the season. Jordan Love started playing really well again, looking like the franchise guy they were hoping for. Yeah, there's still room for growth for Love, but like I said, he proved that he's that diamond in the rough the Packers were looking for. What was it, 4 years ago when they shocked the world when they drafted Jordan Love in the first round, when Aaron Rodgers was still there. Love put in some really strong efforts to get them into the postseason and pull off that crazy first round blowout upset over the Cowboys, and nearly did it again against the 49ers. He made smarter decisions, preciser throws. I mean, not in this game, but in games past. And now you have all these weapons. Aaron Jones in the backfield, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, all these diverse weapons in the receiving game. So, yeah, it looked like Jordan Love and the Pack were that close. They're really that close. Because of not just because of how well they were doing, but also how crappy the Niners were playing in this game. So, still playing to fix for the Packers in the offseason. I mean, they do have a couple of decisions to make, but you'll be curious to see what else they decide to do to further help Jordan Love. Meanwhile, for my 49ers, they're moving on to the NFC Championship game, but hey, at least they can say they finally won one in the clutch. They put up that graphic again on Fox saying, oh, Kyle Shanahan's 0 for 30 in the fourth quarter when he is trailing. So I guess he can finally add one to the win column. But in the context of this game, for as much time as they had to prepare for this one, they looked really awful. Maybe rust had to play with a role in that. The crappy weather, the rain, the downpour. But, like I said, that really shouldn't be an excuse when the opposition is playing in those same conditions and they're outplaying that team on their turf. And that team has also had much more rest in the 49ers. That said, though, they made the key plays that eventually turned the game in their favor. Dre Greenlaw's interceptions, Brock Purdy putting the drive of his life with the season on the line, and then also getting some help from the Packers kicker, missing a key field goal that would have put them up a touchdown rather than 4 points. So for the 49ers, they absolutely came in clutch in this one, but boy, they're going to have to play absolutely better next week in the NFC title game in all 4 quarters, not just the fourth quarter, all of them, if they want to get back to the ultimate game and get the ultimate goal, which is the Super Bowl. So let's hope they use this game as a learning tool to prep for next week. So speaking of next week, let's take an early look at the game that they almost let slip away, and that is the NFC Championship game. So they now head back to the NFC title game for the 4th time in 5 years. So that's a little crazy to think about. The only time that they didn't make it was the pandemic year where they were snake bitten with all those injuries. But now for the first time since their first appearance in forever, in 2020, it's going to be on their turf. So they get to host the NFC Championship game for the first time since 2020. Well, technically 2019, the 2019 season, but nonetheless. So, yeah, they have a chance to earn some, take step 2 at least. Take step 2 in their redemption story. A year removed from their disheartening ending in Philadelphia. They get to take step 2 in their story, and obviously step 3 being you know what. But first, they have to do a little bit of waiting because they have to wait if either Baker Mayfield and the Bucs are coming or Jared Goff and the Lions are coming. So, nonetheless, they're gonna have to, like I said, they're gonna have to play a whole lot better if they want to get back to the place they haven't seen in nearly 4 years, and that is the Super Bowl. So, we'll talk more about this NFC Championship game coming soon to a Very Cold Lasagna podcast near you. But yeah, what did you guys think about this divisional playoff game between the Packers and the 49ers? Which, my God, this was a very stressful game to not just watch, but talk about. And all I can say is at least we're moving on. At least we're moving on to the NFC title game. And you just better play better next week. That's all I can say if we want to get to the Super Bowl. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on this playoff game for the 49ers in the comments below. And as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. We'll be discussing all the conference championship games on the podcast in both video and audio next week. So stay tuned for that. And until the next one, until then, peace out.